What do you call a throwback jersey when it's not really a throwback? Adidas calls it reverse retro, and they just served up another exciting new collection of NHL uniforms that remix and reimagine hockey history. But to truly understand what makes these sweaters special demands a little detective work and a peek into the past. We're about to take a deep dive to uncover the history behind the hype right now as Icethetics presents Design Decoded. Reverse Retro Revealed. As we get underway, here's a quick shout out to the members of the Icethetics channel with a special stick tap to the icons. You too can become a member with a tap of that blue join button. Thank you for your support in helping to grow this channel. October 20th, 2022, the NHL and Adidas announce another round of reverse retro jerseys. The original collection launched in November 2020. The concept was simple. As Adidas put it, your colors, your retros, remixed. Given the popularity of classic hockey uniforms and the resistance of some teams to move their brands backwards, Adidas pitched a new idea, one for every NHL club. Identify a memorable moment in franchise history and the jersey that's inextricably tied to it. Then toss it in a blender. Some teams delivered genuine joy or a deep sense of nostalgia, while others left something to be desired. But on the whole, fans loved it, so much so that Adidas and the NHL decided to do it all over again with a reverse retro reboot. And this time, they promised, history never repeats. In this video, we'll see if that's true as we delve into the inspiration for every reverse retro, all 63 of them, 2 seasons and one unforgettable collection. So settle in as we unpack every throwback, or you can jump to a specific team using the chapter markers seen here and in the video description. I'll be going alphabetically from Anaheim to Winnipeg. I'll give you a bit of background on each team before breaking down their reverse retro designs. Now, let's dive in. We'll start with the elements that tie this entire collection together. From the time Adidas began making NHL jerseys in 2017, this metallic, textured NHL shield has been a staple of every single one. Reverse retro turns it on its head for the first time. Just as the jerseys are a blend of past and present, so too is the shield. The contemporary upward-angled lettering combines with the bygone orange and black color scheme. There's also a new treatment for the Adidas logo on the back of the collar. It's now free of the traditional wordmark as part of a larger brand initiative. And every new reverse retro features a tag on the back hem that reads, "End Plastic Waste," an expression of the company's commitment to sustainability. Founded in '93 as an expansion team, the Mighty Ducks were originally owned by Disney. The team was sold and rebranded in '06 with new colors inspired by their home in Orange County. For their first reverse retro, the Ducks went back to 1995, the season that launched the NHL's third jersey program, and conjured a controversial design with a cult following. They traded jade for white and landed one of the most memorable designs in the entire collection. This time, they went back even earlier to their inaugural season, 1993, and those iconic original uniforms, now revamped in their present-day colors. And when they take the ice, be ready for some eye-popping orange pants. In 1979, as the WHA folded, the Winnipeg Jets were one of 4 teams accepted as new members of the NHL. In '96, they moved to Phoenix and became the Coyotes, with a style never before seen in pro sports. They debuted a third jersey late in the 98-99 season, and that served as the basis for their reverse retro. They swapped the green base for another color in their vibrant Kachina brand, and ended up with a big hit. The Coyotes loved it enough to revisit the same design this year in Desert Sienna, becoming the first NHL team ever to wear this trendy earth tone. The logo crest and nighttime desert scene around the waist were also recolored to blend with the new style. Considered among the original 6 teams, Boston joined the NHL in 1924. The spoked B is a classic hockey symbol today, though it wasn't introduced until the team's 25th season. In 1990, the Bruins captured the President's Trophy for the first time ever before making a run to the Stanley Cup. The uniform they wore that year served as the basis for their 2020 reverse retro, with their yellow, black, and white color scheme playing musical chairs. In this year's collection, the Bees look to 1995 and their debut third jersey from that season, one of the longest tenured in NHL history. The yellow and white were reversed, while the hem, sleeve, and shoulder yoke designs feature the same sublimated effect as the original. Established in 1970, the Sabres have long been known for royal blue and gold, but for a couple of decades recently that saw them experiment with black and red, and even navy blue, before ultimately returning to those classic colors in 2020. For the first reverse retro, Buffalo rolled the calendar back 20 years to revisit the time they wore a red alternate jersey, then swapped in blue and gold, while retaining a touch of silver. 2 years later, they're sticking to the same era, this time with the black jersey that launched in 1996 and revamped like before in blue and gold. But here, they've left out that touch of silver, opting instead for white texturing to fill in the detail of the Bison's head. The Flames originated in Atlanta, Georgia in 1972 before making the move to Calgary in 1980, where they kept the name and color scheme. In the 90s, they added black, but ultimately returned to their original look in 2020. The Flames launched their debut third jersey in 1998 with a fire-breathing horse on the crest. That design spurred their reverse retro, with the only big change being a little less red around the waist and sleeves. But it was such a hit, it came full circle as a third jersey once again. This time around, the team looked to 1995 and a jersey design that quite literally broke with tradition, using a diagonal stripe to break across the horizontal hem stripe and serve as a pedestal for the flaming C. Black and white were swapped to generate this new look, and the original forward-leaning font returns. Hartford was home to one of 4 WHA teams accepted by the NHL in 1979, but after just 18 seasons, the flailing franchise relocated to Raleigh and became the Carolina Hurricanes. Since then, their logo has remained unchanged, and jersey experimentation only began really in the last decade. For their first reverse retro, the Canes chose to honor their Hartford history with a look inspired by the Whalers' debut in 1979. Gray replaced white as the jersey's base color, and even saw the return of Pucky the Whale on the shoulders. This time around, they had a little fun with the reverse retro assignment, going back a whole 3 years to 2019. After relaunching their original jersey as a 25th anniversary alternate, Carolina opted for a reversed version of their current road jersey, replacing the white with red, and trading the red storm flag stripe with a ghosted black version. The Blackhawks are regarded among the NHL's original 6 and endured numerous uniform and logo revisions over their first 3 decades. But in the 1950s, Chicago settled on a look that's much like what we know today. With a wide variety of jersey options to choose from, the Hawks opted for something unexpected for their first reverse retro. While the collar indicates 1940 as the year that inspired the design, it was really the white sweater from 1948 that most closely resembles the black version they ended up with. Armed with a second chance, Chicago went with a more interesting piece of their past, from a year that has some relevance today. That Blackhawks team was a train wreck and barely qualified for the 1938 playoffs, having scored the fewest goals of any team that year. But they stunned the hockey world with win after win, en route to an unlikely Stanley Cup championship. For this jersey, red and black were swapped and a new wordmark crest was introduced. Another WHA transfer in '79, the Nordiques only survived in Quebec until 1995, when they moved to Denver to become the Avalanche. Their logo has been untouched, and jerseys have only changed with new manufacturers, including Reebok and Adidas. The Avs use the reverse retro as an opportunity to celebrate their heritage, modernizing the classic Nordiques look with their own burgundy and blue. It was a fan favorite and arguably the most popular design in the entire collection. This time, they reflected on their arrival in Colorado in '95, having made a major splash by winning the Stanley Cup in their first season. The jerseys featured multi-angled stripes meant to evoke the Rocky Mountains. They brought those back for this jersey while merging the colors and symbols of the state flag of Colorado and restoring the original number font. Despite the common color scheme and iconography, Adidas and the Avs drew no connection to the NHL franchise that played as the Colorado Rockies in the 1970s. Columbus joined the NHL at the turn of the millennium, establishing neon green as an accent in their unique color scheme. The 2007 redesign removed it and made the Blue Jackets one of the most stable brands in the league. They returned to their roots for that first reverse retro, shuffling the colors from their inaugural home uniform, worn in 2000, and sporting a primarily red jersey for the first time. For a modern touch, they replaced the shoulder patches that highlighted their mascot, Stinger, using their present-day cannon design instead. In 2003, the Jackets debuted a third jersey, a design that went on to inspire the primary uniforms they still wear today. But on that version, the sleeves were black, the new base color of this design, which also features some navy blue striping. And as for the sleeves, just like last time, they opted for a tie-in to their current look by incorporating the lighter blue from their third jersey. The Minnesota North Stars were among the expansion teams that doubled the size of the NHL in 1967, but the franchise moved south to Dallas in '93, keeping part of the name and black as their primary uniform color. With new ownership came a fresh new look in 2013 and the introduction of Victory Green. In '99, the Stars captured their first Stanley Cup and chose to honor that monumental moment with their reverse retro. But having moved away from black and dark green, they surprised everyone with not just a white jersey, but white pants and socks as well, all recolored in their present-day palette of silver and Victory Green. For this trip down memory lane, the Stars celebrated their first year in Texas with a design based on their '93 home jersey, shuffling the white, black, and green from the original and trading out gold for silver. The Detroit Cougars joined the NHL in 1926 and briefly changed their name to the Falcons in 1930 before ultimately becoming the Red Wings in '32. Since then, the club has held tight to tradition with a consistent look on the ice. The Wings were probably the biggest letdown of the first reverse retro collection, ignoring their early years in favor of a design lacking any distinctiveness. The collar points to 1998, a year that saw them win their second of back-to-back Stanley Cups. The red jersey was switched to white, and the stripes were set in gray. Maybe a reference to the cup? Hard to say, but this one did not win over many fans. This time around, the Wings solved the distinctiveness problem, but still left us scratching our heads, once again incorporating a color that's never been part of their identity. 1991 is referenced in the collar, but that was not an especially significant year for the team. It was the NHL's 75th anniversary, and all of the original 6 teams wore throwbacks that season, including Detroit, who paid tribute to the Cougars from 1926. So you could say this jersey is a throwback of a throwback. How reverse retro is that? Of the 4 WHA teams that transferred to the NHL in '79, the Oilers are the only one that still plays in the city where they started. Their oil drop logo has gone relatively unchanged, with only a few color adjustments over the years. For their first line of reverse retros, Edmonton commemorated their NHL debut, swapping the blue and orange from their inaugural home sweater and completing the look with orange pants. In 2001, they added an alternate uniform for the first time that had no orange at all. Created by celebrity fan and Spawn Comics creator Todd McFarlane, this season they revisit that look, now with some orange accents. In '93, the Panthers entered the NHL as an expansion team and maintained a consistent identity with that leaping cat, until a change in ownership brought about a rebrand in 2016. That classic cat returned for the reverse retro, as Florida honored one of its all-time best teams, who made a run to the '96 Stanley Cup in only their 3rd season. Based on their red sweater from that year, this design swaps red for blue and white for gold, all in their current color palette. In '98, the Panthers debuted an alternate uniform, their first time wearing blue. This year, they remixed that design with a light blue base. That and the shoulder patch were borrowed from their other blue 3rd jersey from 2009. To build on the bright tropical motif, their sunny secondary logo makes its first appearance on the chest. So it only makes sense they took it for a photo shoot out on the water. LA was part of the NHL's first major expansion in 1967 and wore purple and yellow uniforms until a 1988 rebrand in black and silver that coincided with that famous trade. In '98, purple accents came back, but were gone again by 2013. The Kings' first reverse retro was labeled 1989, but 88 may be more fitting since the jersey seems to merge the two looks that were worn during that calendar year. A classic color scheme remixed with a logo and striping from the Gretzky era. This year's edition commemorates the 40th anniversary of the Miracle on Manchester, the remarkable first-round playoff upset that saw the Kings knock out a talented Oilers team following a record-setting third-period comeback and overtime thriller. With a simple swap of white and yellow, we see the retro crown on a white jersey for the first time ever. When the Wild joined the NHL in 2000, the state of hockey was just 7 years removed from losing the North Stars to Dallas. They built a whole new brand with a unique color palette and a logo chock full of Minnesota symbolism. Instead of looking to their own franchise history for a reverse retro, they went back to 1978 to honor the team that preceded them, recreating a beloved North Stars jersey with a recolored Wild logo on the chest. It proved to be one of the most popular designs in the collection. Not wanting to reinvent the wheel, the Wild revisited the same era this time around, but with the green jersey in mind. And with another simple color swap of today's logo, it should prove to be another slam dunk. Montreal is one of the most storied cities in hockey, home not just to the Canadiens, but the founding of the NHL itself in 1917. Since then, the Habs have hardly altered their logo or primary jersey, making them icons of the sport for over a century. Without much variation in their uniform history, the Canadiens simply swapped the colors of their classic red sweater and wore blue for the first time since the formation of the league. For good measure, the color highlighted 1976, which was the start of a run of 4 straight Stanley Cup wins. 1979 saw the end of that run, and this year's jersey pays tribute to that dynasty, using the same design as inspiration, now in light blue, another first for the team. Over the summer, it was rumored this reverse retro would be connected to the old Montreal Expos of the MLB, who also wore light blue, but Adidas makes no such reference in their design explanation. Nashville entered the NHL in '98 with a logo based on a saber-toothed tiger fossil. That complex logo was simplified in 2011 when the Predators decided yellow would be their primary color going forward. Their reverse retro honored their inaugural season, trading blue for yellow while keeping their silver sleeves and streamlining the original crest. The first time the Preds wore a third jersey was 2001, and it made quite a splash. The layered material that created the unique color effect and 3D logo earned it a memorable nickname, the Mustard Cat. The collar on this year's version points to 2004, oddly, perhaps in reference to the team's first ever playoff appearance, though they did not wear their third jersey in the postseason. That aside, it employs today's yellow as a new base color, and the tiger skull is back on the shoulders. The Devils have a bit of a rocky history. Founded as the Kansas City Scouts in 1974, they relocated to Colorado after just 2 seasons. In '82, they moved once more and have become a fixture in New Jersey, with a consistent brand that's seen only a minor color change in 40 years. Their reverse retro debut was not unexpected, a throwback to their original road jersey from 1982, with the red swapped for green. So what would they do the second time around? They stuck to the same year, 1982, blending their original white sweater with the colors they wore as the Colorado Rockies prior to relocating. It brings a whole new look to the Devils, in colors New Jersey has never seen them use before. In '72, the Isles were one of 2 NHL expansion teams. Their simple yet iconic look got a bold but brief makeover in 1995, as fans demanded the return of the original mark, and eventually, those original colors followed as well. First time around, the Islanders didn't quite seem to grasp the concept of reverse retro, delivering a navy blue version of their existing home jersey, a throwback design itself. The year noted was 1980, which marked the start of a dynasty that won 4 straight Stanley Cups, and yet the color scheme came from the late 90s. This time, though, it clicked, as the Isles opted to revisit 1995 and a rebrand that was wildly unpopular in its time, but has since gained a strong nostalgic following. Adidas says it was the most requested reverse retro in 2020. And now, the Fisherman finally returns, with some modern revisions, including updated colors and refined striping. Synonymous with hockey in the U.S., the New York Rangers entered the NHL in 1926, and today reside among the league's original 6 members. Like others in this group, they've made very few uniform changes over nearly a century in existence. In '96, NYR joined the ranks of the 3rd jersey program, introducing a definitive symbol of New York as a new team icon. This jersey served as the foundation for the Rangers' first reverse retro, despite falling short on the reverse part. All they changed was the red on the sleeves. Still, that jersey proved to be such a success, they went right back to it. But this time, instead of a navy blue base, it's the same royal blue that made the Broadway blue shirts famous. And this version brings red back to the sleeves. Ottawa was a founding member of the NHL in 1917, but the team moved away in 1931. Then in '92, the Senators made their triumphant return to Canada's capital. They strayed from their original look by 2007, but brought it back in 2020. For the reverse retro, they inverted the black and red of that inaugural jersey in a literal interpretation of the theme. In the next edition, the Sens turned the calendar to 2007, a year remembered for its historic playoff run, the team's only Stanley Cup final appearance to date. Their home jersey that season was first added as an alternate in '97. Here, it's reinvented in black and red to mimic the style of their current home uniform. And the front-facing Centurion from the original has moved to the shoulders, while the present-day logo comes front and center. Founded during the first wave of NHL expansion in '67, the Flyers have maintained a fairly consistent brand for more than 5 decades, with only minor jersey changes over the years. Philadelphia's first reverse retro highlighted '95 as a notable year, but nothing in their announcement explained why. The throwback on which it was based was worn for 25 years, from 1982 to 2007. Still, it was a simple idea that flipped black and white on the orange jersey. This time, the Flyers commemorate the second of their back-to-back Stanley Cups in 1975, using a design that reverses the black and orange from their white jersey. It's an unusual look, as orange has always been a prominent color for Philly. But wait, this is going to really knock your socks off. The Cooperalls are back. Kind of. In '81, the Flyers experimented with long pants instead of shorts and socks, a first for the NHL. It turned out to be a bit dangerous during game action though, so they didn't last long. And that's why we'll only see them during warm-ups on reverse retro nights this season. Pittsburgh entered the NHL alongside its Keystone State rival in '67, but haven't always been as confident in their branding. The Penguins started with powder blue and eventually went to a deeper shade and even navy blue before switching to black and yellow mid-season in 1980. In the decades that followed, they tested out a futuristic penguin and a pale gold before ultimately reverting back in 2016. The Pens' original jerseys featured a word mark diagonally across the chest, which inspired a new black road uniform in '92. It was retired in '97, the year commemorated with their first reverse retro, with a shuffled color scheme on a white base. And even though that era saw the rise of the Robo Penguin, that logo was nowhere to be found. Until this year, as Pittsburgh revived their white home sweater from '92, now in black with that controversial crest. Adidas says this uniform is among the most requested throwbacks in the NHL, and in fact, it's the realization of a concept created by the design firm that led the Pens' '92 rebrand. How's that for a full circle moment? San Jose launched a decade of massive NHL expansion in '91 and immediately made a name for themselves with a fearsome shark logo and teal jerseys. Both got upgrades in a 2007 redesign, and the team launched new uniforms just this season. Late in the '97-98 season, the Sharks rejected tradition and launched a new third jersey free of horizontal stripes. That was the basis for their reverse retro in 2020, with a gray uniform and a remixed color scheme. This time around, they decided to go beyond their own franchise history and recall a club that brought the NHL to the Bay Area long before the Sharks. The California Golden Seals never quite found their footing and moved to Cleveland after just 9 seasons. But in 1974, they wore this, which served as the inspiration for a new Sharks wordmark on a short-lived but unforgettable jersey. The Kraken are the newest NHL expansion team and are embarking on only their second season, meaning two things. One, they weren't around yet for the first reverse retro, and two, they don't have much of their own past to pull from. Instead, they tapped into Seattle's rather rich hockey history, calling back to 1951, with a design loosely inspired by the Seattle Ironmen in their final season. The color blocking across the front gives the illusion of the S submerging below a dark sea, with that menacing red eye peeking out just above the surface. And it's the first time the Kraken logo will be rendered on a jersey without the two-tone beveling effect. St. Louis was among the 6 cities that joined the NHL in 1967, and though they've experimented with various color palettes and logo treatments over the years, the blue note has always been at the core of their identity. In '95, the team introduced a bold new sweater with a prominent splash of red and diagonal striping that mimicked a musical staff. Their last reverse retro was based on that design, but inverted blue and red, giving the Blues their first ever red jersey. And though the Blues first skated in 1967, the franchise was awarded the year before, and these sweaters, seen in the local paper, ushered in the big announcement, but never saw game action. Now, that 1966 look is finally ready for the NHL, as a yellow jersey. It's the only example of a reverse retro based on an unused prototype design. Founded in '92 by retired superstar Phil Esposito, the Lightning brought NHL hockey to Florida for the first time, with a hard-hitting black and blue color scheme with silver accents. In 2011, their brand was simplified with a monochrome logo and uniforms. When the first round of reverse retros were in development, Tampa Bay's shining moment was its 2004 Stanley Cup win, which served as the basis for a remixed throwback, with blue and black inverted and the original logo on the chest. This time, they throw it back to '97 and Tampa's first ever alternate uniform, an elaborate illustration of a storm scene with swelling seas, heavy rains, and lightning bolts that run down the sleeves. The new version is white instead of blue and a genuine reflection of the original, right down to the electrified blue numbers. When it comes to NHL cities, there's no place like Toronto, a founding member of the league in 1917. But back then, they were known as the Arenas, and then later, the St. Pats, before ultimately landing on Maple Leafs in 1927. The uniforms and logos have been revamped from time to time, but the Leaf has stood strong as the center of the brand. For their initial reverse retro, Toronto looked to 1970, a year of change. They shifted away from a leaf that closely resembled the one on Canada's flag and introduced a new neck-to-wrist sleeve stripe. Both of these elements were represented in the new sweater, with a rare blue-on-blue crest and gray in place of white. In '62, the Leafs won their first of 3 straight Stanley Cups, and that championship look is being remade in this collection, with the white and blue inverted. The crest was faithfully replicated with single-needle stitching, a new narrower shoulder yoke was created, and the numbers feature a vintage felt application. The Canucks entered the NHL in 1970, but their legacy began much earlier in the Western Hockey League. Since joining the big league, they've had trouble deciding on an identity. The 70s were blue and green, the 80s were yellow and black, and in the late 90s, they introduced an Orca logo in navy blue and maroon. Since 2007, they've landed back on blue and green. But needless to say, when it comes to throwbacks, Vancouver has no shortage of possibilities. For the first round of reverse retros, they conjured 2001, when they launched a third jersey with a big gradient. It was blended with present-day colors to create a refreshed look. This time around, they remind us of their pre-NHL days with Johnny Canuck as their symbol, specifically in 1962. Like before, the jersey swaps in modern colors, green and blue, now with a dash of vintage white. And in a unique twist, the jersey will match the original, in that player numbers will appear on the right sleeve and the left side of the chest, but not the left sleeve. Founded in 2017, the Golden Knights are one of the newest members of the NHL and, as such, have a limited history from which to draw reverse retro inspiration. For the first round, they look to Las Vegas hockey history, which includes the Thunder, a minor league team that captured the IHL's regular season title in '95-96, and the Wranglers, who played in the ECHL for 11 years. The red base is inspired by the Wranglers, while the V stripe around the waist honors the Thunder. And it all comes together with a unique Golden Knights color scheme and secondary logo as the crest. When it came to this year's reverse retro, Vegas had to break the rules once again. They stuck to 1995 as their target era, but instead of borrowing from the past, they imagined it. What could a Golden Knights third jersey have looked like if they were around back then? The answer involves the glitz of the strip and its world-famous signage. There's a diagonal word mark across the chest, a number kit that seems to come straight out of the neon boneyard. And the best part? It all glows in the dark. The Capitals joined the NHL as an expansion team in 1974 and have employed a patriotic color scheme through most of their existence. For a 12-year stretch beginning in the mid-90s, they wore bronze and blue with a diving bald eagle as their primary logo. And that look served as the inspiration for both of their reverse retros. In '97, the Caps followed up a non-playoff season with a run that sent them to their first Stanley Cup final appearance. They blended the jersey from that year with their current color palette in 2020, the first time the Eagle jersey ever appeared in red, white, and blue. This time, it's the same jersey in the original color scheme, but remixed to make the black more prominent. But what about the year in the collar? The original jersey launched in '95. Might it be connected to Alex Ovechkin, who made his NHL debut in '05 wearing the bronze and black? Atlanta got its second NHL expansion team in '99, but even the Thrashers could not make it work long-term. In 2011, the team abruptly packed up and left for Winnipeg, where they reclaimed the Jets' name with a fresh look. The connection to the city's hockey past and lack of considerable history of their own was enough to summon a throwback to the old Jets and the jersey that team wore after transferring from the WHA in '79. Present-day colors were applied, and the Jets' gray reverse retro was born. For this round, they stuck with the same concept but rolled the calendar forward to 1990, when the old Jets redesigned their logo and uniforms. Once again, modern colors were applied to blend two different eras of Jets hockey. And for a special touch, they even adapted the shoulder patch. In the 90s, it promoted the Goals for Kids Foundation, the Jets' charitable arm, which raised money for children's charities across Manitoba. Today, the True North Youth Foundation has a similar mission, and this patch is featured on their new reverse retro jersey. And now you're up to speed on all things reverse retro, with every unique design decoded. Unfortunately, this program is unlikely to continue, as Adidas was the primary driver of it, and they've opted not to renew their contract with the NHL when it ends in 2024. I certainly hope the league's next jersey partner can bring as much creativity as Adidas has, maybe even a new series beyond reverse retro. So, as I wrap up, let me leave you with a question for the comments. What sort of league-wide jersey initiative would you like to see in the NHL's future? As always, thank you for watching the Icethetics YouTube channel. Show your support with a like or comment, and if you're feeling real crazy, maybe even a super thanks. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss upcoming videos. You can even join to become an official member. Hope to see you on our Discord if you do. That's all for now. See you next time.